The chocolate cake hit me square in the face with a wet splat. Buttercream frosting dripped down my cheeks, chunks of sponge cake sliding off my nose onto my good blouse. The dining room fell silent except for my mother's heavy breathing. Her face was flushed red, her eyes blazing with an anger I had never seen before. "You ungrateful, selfish bitch," she hissed. I slowly wiped the frosting from my eyes, letting globs of cake fall to the floor. Around the table sat my entire extended family, aunts, uncles, cousins, all staring at me with expressions ranging from shock to satisfaction. My father looked pleased, as if I had finally gotten what I deserved. My pregnant sister Lily was crying dramatically, her hand pressed against her still flat stomach. Her boyfriend Kevin glared at me like I had just kicked a puppy. This was the moment I realized I was completely alone. How had it come to this? 3 hours earlier, I had been scraping wallpaper in my new apartment, humming along to music, blissfully unaware that my family was about to ambush me. The apartment I had worked 60-hour weeks for 8 years to afford. The apartment I had bought with my inheritance from grandma and every penny I had saved since I was 22. The apartment they wanted me to hand over to my sister like some kind of charitable donation. Let me back up. My name is Hannah Mitchell. I'm 30 years old, single, and as of 2 weeks ago, a homeowner. When my grandmother passed away 6 months ago, she left me a modest inheritance. Not life-changing money, but enough to make my dream possible. I had been saving religiously since my first job, living in a tiny studio apartment, packing lunches every day, saying no to vacations my friends took without a second thought. While everyone else was posting Instagram photos from Bali or buying designer clothes, I was working overtime and putting every extra dollar into my savings account. The sacrifice felt worth it when I finally held the keys to my own place. $300,000. No mortgage, no debt, just mine. It's a 2-bedroom apartment about 10 minutes from my office in a neighborhood that's definitely on the rise. The previous owners had terrible taste in wallpaper, and the kitchen needed updating, but I didn't mind. I was going to fix it up myself, room by room, with YouTube tutorials as my guide. There's something deeply satisfying about building something with your own hands. Something that can't be taken away. Or so I thought. The call came on a Tuesday evening while I was attacking that hideous floral wallpaper with a scraper. "Hannah, dear, I need you to come over next Saturday for a family meeting," my mother said in that fake casual tone she uses when she's plotting something. I should have known right then. Mom never calls family meetings unless she wants something. Family meeting. What's going on? I asked, pausing my work. "Oh, it's a surprise. Just make sure you're here by 4. And bring one of those chocolate cakes from that bakery near your new place." The bakery request should have been another red flag. Mom only asks for expensive bakery cakes when she's buttering someone up. "Mom, seriously, what's this about?" I pressed. "Just a little family gathering. Your sister will be there with Kevin. And I've invited your aunts and uncles and cousins too. The whole extended family." That definitely wasn't normal. "Mom, it's a secret, Hannah. A surprise. Just be here. Okay." And then she hung up. I stared at the phone, already feeling uneasy. In my family, surprises were rarely good news. At least not for me. Growing up, I learned early that I was the expendable child. When we were kids and both had events on the same weekend, guess which one my parents attended? Lily's cheerleading competition, not my debate tournament. When we both needed new clothes for school, Lily got the brand names while I got whatever was on clearance. Lily needs to look good for her social activities, they would say, as if my academic achievements didn't matter. I still remember my 16th birthday when I got a used bike while Lily got a car for her 16th the following year. Lily needs more help getting around, they explained. As if my debate tournaments and library volunteering didn't count as real activities. But I had never been the type to make a scene. I just worked harder, saved more, and proved I could take care of myself. Maybe that was my mistake. Maybe I made it too easy for them to take me for granted. The week flew by as I continued working on my apartment. Physical labor helped quiet the nagging voice in my head that whispered warnings about Saturday's family meeting. I managed to get all the wallpaper down and started priming the walls for painting. Every blister on my hands felt like progress. Every aching muscle was proof that I was building something real. When Saturday arrived, I woke up early to finish painting the living room before heading to my parents' house. I stopped by the bakery as requested and picked up a chocolate cake with buttercream frosting, my mother's favorite. The $60 price tag made me wince, but family peace was worth the expense. Or so I told myself. As I drove to my childhood home, dread settled in my stomach like a stone. The house is a two-story colonial that my grandmother left to my sister and me when she passed. We had let our parents continue living there, of course. It never even occurred to me to do otherwise. The house was filled with memories, both good and bad, but it was still home. As I pulled into the driveway, I noticed several cars already parked. Uncle Steve's truck, Aunt Karen's minivan, my cousin Derek's motorcycle leaning against the garage. Whatever this was about, it was definitely a full family affair. I took a deep breath, grabbed the cake box, and headed inside. "Hannah's here," my mother called out as I walked through the door. She gave me a quick hug and took the cake from my hands with unusual enthusiasm. Perfect timing. "We're just about to sit down." The living room was packed. Lily and Kevin were sitting on the couch, hands intertwined, whispering to each other with barely contained excitement. My father was talking with Uncle Steve in the corner, both men nodding seriously. Aunt Karen and my cousins were already heading toward the dining room. The atmosphere felt charged, like everyone was in on some secret except me. "What's going on?" I asked Lily as I approached. She smiled mysteriously, her eyes bright with anticipation. "You'll see." That smile made my skin crawl. I followed everyone into the dining room where Mom had set the table with her good china, the set she only brings out for Thanksgiving and Christmas. Whatever this announcement was, it was clearly important. I took my seat next to cousin Derek, who seemed just as confused as I was. "Do you know what this is about?" I whispered. He shook his head. "No clue. Your mom just called us all here for some big news." The food was passed around. Pot roast, mashed potatoes, green beans, and the cake I brought was placed at the center of the table like some kind of offering. Everyone made small talk, carefully avoiding whatever elephant was in the room. The tension was suffocating. I picked at my food, my appetite gone. Finally, after everyone had filled their plates, my mother stood up, tapping her glass with a spoon. "I want to thank you all for coming today," she said, beaming like she was about to announce world peace. "We have some wonderful news to share with you all." She looked at Lily with pure adoration. "Our dear Lily is pregnant." The room erupted in cheers and congratulations. Lily blushed prettily while Kevin put his arm around her shoulders like the proud father-to-be. "And they're getting engaged," Mom continued, practically glowing. "Wedding plans will follow soon." I clapped along with everyone else, genuinely happy for my sister despite our complicated relationship. "Congratulations, Lily," I said, smiling at her across the table. But something in her expression made me pause. There was expectation there, like she was waiting for something more. Mom wasn't finished. She exchanged a look with Dad and Lily, then turned to me with an expression that made my stomach drop. The room went quiet, everyone sensing the shift in energy. "That's not all," Mom said, her voice cutting through the sudden silence. "We have another announcement." Everyone looked at her expectantly, including me. This was it. The real reason for the family meeting. As you all know, Hannah recently bought herself an apartment, Mom said, gesturing toward me like I was some kind of exhibit. The relatives nodded, some of them murmuring congratulations that they hadn't bothered to offer when I'd first shared the news weeks ago. Hannah is 30 years old and single, Mom continued, her voice taking on a sharp edge. No husband, no children, not even a boyfriend. Heat flooded my face. What did my relationship status have to do with anything? Around the table, I could see relatives nodding in agreement, as if my single status was some kind of character flaw. Lily, on the other hand, Mom went on, her voice warm with pride, is about to start a family. She and Kevin need a place of their own, not some cramped rental. My heart began pounding as I realized where this was going. The room felt like it was closing in on me. I glanced at Lily and Kevin, who were staring intently at their plates, unable to meet my eyes. They knew. They were all in on this. Mom turned to me, her smile now sharp as a knife. Hannah, this is your chance to show how much you love your sister, how generous and kind you are. The words hit me like physical blows. I think you should give your new apartment to Lily and Kevin. Silence fell over the dining room like a heavy blanket. I stared at my mother in disbelief, waiting for the punchline to this horrible joke, but it never came. Her face was completely serious. You can go back to renting, she added casually, as if she wasn't asking me to give away my $300,000 apartment. You don't need all that space just for yourself. The casual cruelty of it took my breath away. 8 years of 60-hour weeks. 8 years of living in a studio apartment while my friends bought houses. 8 years of saying no to vacations, to dinners out, to anything that wasn't absolutely necessary. All of it dismissed with a wave of her hand. I looked around the table desperately, hoping someone would speak up for me. My father nodded in agreement with Mom, his expression stern. Lily finally met my eyes, and I saw a mix of embarrassment and entitlement on her face. She wanted my apartment. She actually expected me to hand it over. That's a wonderful idea, Aunt Karen chimed in, breaking the silence. Family should always come first. Several other relatives nodded in agreement, their faces bright with approval. This wasn't a spontaneous suggestion. This was a planned ambush. They had all discussed this beforehand, decided that Hannah should sacrifice her apartment for Lily's benefit. The betrayal cut deeper than I had imagined possible. You're not serious, I finally managed to say, my voice barely above a whisper. Of course I am, Mom replied, her voice hardening like steel. Your sister needs it more than you do. Needs it. As if housing was something that should be distributed based on life circumstances rather than earned through work and sacrifice. I stood up slowly, my chair scraping against the floor. The sound was loud in the tense silence. Let me get this straight. You want me to give Lily my apartment? The apartment I worked 60-hour weeks for years to afford. The apartment I just bought with money I inherited from Grandma and saved for 8 years. You want me to just hand it over because Lily got pregnant? Hannah, Dad cut in, his tone warning me to back down like I was still a child being scolded. Don't be selfish. Selfish. The word hit me like a slap. I laughed, the sound hollow and bitter even to my own ears. I worked for that apartment. Every single penny. No one helped me. But Lily needs, Mom started. No, I interrupted, my voice getting stronger. Absolutely not. I will not give my apartment to Lily. It's mine. I earned it. Lily burst into tears, her hand dramatically pressed against her still flat stomach. The performance was Oscar-worthy. Kevin glared at me as if I had just slapped his pregnant girlfriend. How can you be so heartless? Mom demanded, her face flushing with anger. Your own sister. How can you ask me to give away everything I've worked for? I countered, finally finding my voice. Why doesn't Lily work and save like I did? The relatives began whispering among themselves. I caught phrases like, so materialistic, and always was the difficult one. Always the difficult one. Because I had standards. Because I wouldn't roll over and let them walk all over me. You've always been like this, Mom spat, her mask of maternal concern finally slipping. Always thinking only of yourself. The accusation was so unfair it left me speechless. I had spent my entire life being the responsible one, the one who never caused problems, the one who quietly accepted being second best. And now I was selfish for refusing to give up everything I had worked for. I'm not giving her my apartment, I repeated firmly, my voice carrying clearly across the room. End of discussion. What happened next still plays in my mind in slow motion. Mom's face twisted with rage. She grabbed the chocolate cake I had brought, the $60 cake sitting untouched in the center of the table, and hurled it at me with surprising force. The cake hit me square in the face, buttercream and chocolate splattering across my cheeks and dripping down my neck onto my good blouse. The room fell silent except for the sound of cake hitting the floor. I slowly wiped the frosting from my eyes, letting globs of cake fall around my feet. My family stared at me. Dad and Lily didn't look shocked or horrified. Instead, they seemed pleased, as if I had finally gotten what I deserved. The silence stretched on. Without a word, I grabbed my purse and keys and walked toward the door. Behind me, the shouting began. Selfish bastard, Mom's voice rang out. We should disown you, Dad called after me. How could you do this to me? Lily wailed, her voice breaking with manufactured grief. I got into my car, hands shaking so badly I could barely turn the key. Chocolate frosting was drying on my skin, making my face feel tight and sticky. Somehow, I managed to drive home. Back in my apartment, I collapsed onto my couch and tried to process what had just happened. The apartment felt different now. No longer just my sanctuary, but proof of my independence. Evidence that I could take care of myself when no one else would. My phone started buzzing almost immediately. Text messages and calls from my parents and Lily flooded in. You're being ridiculous. Just give her the apartment. I can't believe how selfish you're being right now. After everything we've done for you, your pregnant sister needs a home. After everything they had done for me. What exactly had they done? All my life, I had been second choice to Lily. When we were kids and both needed new clothes for school, Lily got the brand names while I got whatever was on clearance. When we both applied to summer camps, my parents found the money for Lily's art camp but told me the debate camp I wanted was too expensive. On Lily's 16th birthday, they threw her a massive party with a professional DJ. On mine, Mom made a cake and invited 2 relatives. And now they expected me to give her my apartment. The one thing I had achieved completely on my own. I turned off my phone and tossed it aside. Then I remembered something important. The house we had been sitting in just hours ago. My grandmother's house, the one she left to Lily and me equally in her will. We had let our parents live there out of kindness, never asking for anything in return. I was half owner of that house, just as Lily was. And suddenly, I knew exactly what I needed to do. The next morning, I woke up with a crystal clear plan. I searched through my filing cabinet until I found the folder labeled Grandma's Will. Inside was the document that confirmed what I already knew. Lily and I each owned 50% of our parents' house. They were living there by our goodwill, not by legal right. My hands were steady as I reached for my phone. It was time to call a lawyer. I was about to search for real estate attorneys when my phone pinged. A Facebook notification. My mother had tagged me in a post. With a growing sense of dread, I opened the app and nearly dropped my phone when I saw what she had written. It breaks my heart to share this, but sometimes family disappoints you in the worst ways. Yesterday, my daughter Hannah refused to help her pregnant sister Lily when she needed it most. Despite having the means to help, Hannah chose selfishness over family. As a mother, I've never been more heartbroken. Please pray for Hannah to find compassion in her heart. The post already had dozens of comments, mostly from relatives and family friends. I was there. Hannah was horrifically cruel to poor Lily. Some people just don't understand what family means. Keeping an apartment all to herself when her sister is pregnant. Shameful. Not a single person mentioned how my mother had thrown a cake at my face. Not one person questioned why I should give up my apartment that I had worked so hard for. I scrolled through the comments, each one like a knife to my chest. My mother was actively liking and responding to the most vicious ones. She was orchestrating a public shaming campaign against me. That was the moment something broke inside me. The last thread of familial loyalty snapped. I picked up my phone and searched for real estate attorney near me. The first result was Blackwell Law Office. I dialed the number. Blackwell Law Office, a receptionist answered. I need to speak with a lawyer about property rights, I said, my voice surprisingly steady. 2 hours later, I was sitting across from Jeremy Blackwell, a sharp-eyed man in his 50s who listened carefully as I explained my situation. Let me get this straight, he said when I finished. You and your sister inherited a house from your grandmother. You've allowed your parents to live there rent-free. Now, after they demanded you give your apartment to your sister and publicly humiliated you when you refused, you want to know your options regarding the house. Yes, I confirmed. I don't want to be vindictive, but they've shown me no respect or consideration. I need to know what my rights are. Jeremy reviewed the will and nodded. It's clear-cut. You and your sister each own 50% of the property. You can at any time request that the house be sold and the proceeds split between you and your sister. My heart pounded with possibility. What's the process? I asked. I'll draft a formal notice stating your intention to sell your half of the property. Your sister can either buy you out at fair market value, or the entire house will need to be sold and the proceeds divided. Your parents legally have no say in the matter. I took a deep breath. Do it. For the next few days, I focused on my apartment renovations. I had finished painting the living room and moved on to ripping out the old carpet. Physical labor helped keep my mind off the mess with my family. I blocked their numbers temporarily. I needed space to think clearly without their constant harassment. 5 days after my meeting with Jeremy, my doorbell rang. I looked through the peephole to see my parents, Lily, and Kevin standing in the hallway. Their faces were twisted with anger. I didn't open the door. Hannah, we know you're in there, my mother shouted. Open this door right now. We need to talk about this ridiculous letter. You ungrateful bitch, my father added, his voice booming through the door. I remained silent, pressing record on my phone's voice memo app. After everything we've done for you, my mother screamed. You're trying to make your pregnant sister homeless, Lily cried. This is low, even for you, Kevin added. I recorded every word, every threat, every insult they hurled at my door for nearly 15 minutes before they finally gave up and left. The next day, I sent the recording to Jeremy, who called me immediately. This is harassment, he said firmly. We can file for a restraining order if necessary. But more importantly, their behavior only strengthens our position. They've clearly demonstrated hostility toward you. A week later, Jeremy called with news. Your parents' lawyer reached out. They want to mediate. The mediation was set for the following Monday at Jeremy's office. I arrived early, dressed in my most professional outfit, a navy blue pantsuit I usually reserved for big client meetings. Jeremy greeted me with a confident smile. Remember, you have every legal right to do this. Don't let them make you feel guilty. My parents, Lily, and Kevin arrived with their lawyer. My mother glared at me with naked contempt. Traitor, she hissed as she passed me. The lawyer spoke first, laying out the facts of the case. My parents' lawyer argued that selling the house would cause undue hardship to my family. Jeremy countered by presenting the recorded harassment and social media posts as evidence of their treatment of me. After nearly 2 hours of back and forth, the lawyers conferred privately before returning with a proposed settlement. The house would be sold, and the proceeds divided equally between Lily and me as per our grandmother's will. My mother burst into tears when she heard this. "Please, Hannah," she sobbed, suddenly switching tactics. "We're your family. How can you do this to us? I'm sorry about the cake." I lost my temper. I looked at her tear-streaked face, remembering all the times I had forgiven her treatment of me, all the times I had accepted being second best to Lily. I thought about the public humiliation she had orchestrated, the harassment at my door, the demands that I give up everything I had worked for. "The house will be sold," I said quietly. "That's final." Jeremy nodded and began drafting the settlement agreement. As we waited, I could feel my family's hatred radiating toward me. I didn't care anymore. For the first time in my life, I was standing up for myself. 2 months passed in a blur of legal paperwork and real estate viewings. The house sold faster than expected. The market was hot, and the property was in a desirable neighborhood. After closing costs and fees, Lily and I each received just over $175,000. I never spoke directly to my family during this time. All communication went through our lawyers. I learned from Jeremy that my parents were furious but ultimately powerless to stop the sale. They had been living in a property they didn't own for years, contributing nothing toward its upkeep beyond basic maintenance. What are they going to do now? I asked Jeremy during our final meeting. Your sister has decided to use her share as a down payment on a new house, he explained. Your parents will be moving in with her and Kevin. They've secured a mortgage for the remainder. I nodded, feeling a strange mix of emotions. Part of me felt guilty. I had effectively forced my parents from their home. But another part, the part that remembered the cake in my face and the public shaming, felt vindicated. What about you? Jeremy asked. Any plans for your share? Investment portfolio, I replied. I've been working with a financial advisor to set up a diversified mix of stocks, bonds, and real estate investment trusts. Smart move, he said approvingly. Well, unless there's anything else, I think our business is concluded. I shook his hand firmly. Thank you for everything. As I walked out of his office, I felt lighter somehow, as if I had set down a heavy load I had been carrying for years. The weight of always being the responsible one, the one who gave in, the one who sacrificed. Back at my apartment, I surveyed what I had accomplished. The renovation was nearly complete. I had replaced the carpet with hardwood floors, painted every room, updated the kitchen with new appliances, and installed modern light fixtures throughout. It looked nothing like the place I had bought 3 months ago. It was truly mine now in every sense. 6 months after the cake incident, my phone rang. It was Sarah, a friend from work. Hey, Sarah, I answered. Hannah, how are you doing? She asked, her voice concerned. We had talked briefly about the family drama when I had shown up to work with red eyes after the cake incident. I'm okay. Actually, I realized as I said it that it was true. The house sale is final. The money's in my account. And your family. I sighed. That part's still a mess. I haven't spoken to any of them. I hear things through mutual friends, though. What kind of things? Lily's wedding was last month. Small ceremony, just close family. I paused. I wasn't invited, obviously. I'm sorry, Hannah. Don't be. I wouldn't have gone anyway. I meant it. She's due to give birth next week. Apparently a boy. And you're really okay with all of this? Not seeing your nephew. I thought about it for a moment. He'll grow up thinking I'm the villain in some family drama. They'll tell him his awful Aunt Hannah wouldn't give them her apartment and made them sell their house. They won't mention how they treated me my entire life. Sarah was quiet for a moment. Families are complicated. That's putting it mildly. I laughed without humor. The thing is, Sarah, I don't think they ever really saw me as family. I was just useful, someone to sacrifice when needed. Do you think you'll ever reconcile? Not unless they acknowledge what they did and genuinely apologize. I knew it would never happen. My parents had spent their entire lives favoring Lily. They wouldn't suddenly develop self-awareness in their 60s. After hanging up, I poured myself a glass of wine and walked out onto my small balcony. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. 6 months ago, if someone had told me I would be estranged from my entire family, I might have been devastated. But now, I felt strangely at peace. My phone pinged with a text from another mutual friend. Lily had the baby. 7 pounds, 6 ounces. Everyone's doing fine. I stared at the message, waiting for some emotional response. Sadness, anger, regret. But all I felt was a distant acknowledgement, like hearing news about an acquaintance rather than my own sister. I knew they were all living together now. Lily, Kevin, the baby, and my parents in the house they had bought with Lily's share of the money and a 30-year mortgage. They would be paying for it well into their retirement years. But I couldn't find it in me to feel sorry for them. They had shown me clearly where I stood in their eyes. Not as a daughter or sister or aunt, but as a resource to be exploited. My apartment was quiet as I moved back inside. Some might call it lonely, but I called it peaceful. The walls I had painted myself, the floors I had installed with my own hands. Every inch of this place represented my independence, my refusal to be used. On my bookshelf sat a small box containing the only family photos I had kept, pictures of my grandmother and me. She had always treated Lily and me equally. Perhaps she had seen what was happening, how my parents favored my sister, and tried in her own way to balance the scales by leaving us equal shares of her house. "Thank you, Grandma," I whispered, touching the box lightly. As for the rest of my family, I had no desire to reach out. The ball was firmly in their court, and I suspected it would stay there forever. I was done making sacrifices for people who wouldn't do the same for me. I had always thought family was about unconditional love and support. Now I understood that real family, whether related by blood or not, would never ask you to set yourself on fire to keep them warm. They would never throw cake in your face when you refused to burn. My phone remained silent. No calls from my mother begging forgiveness. No text from my father acknowledging his favoritism. No message from Lily thanking me for the years I had spent in her shadow, never complaining. And that was fine. I had my apartment, my investments, my career, and friends who actually cared about me. I had a life I built myself, brick by brick, dollar by dollar. The cake incident had shown me who my family really was. Now I knew who I was too. Someone who wouldn't be used. Someone who wouldn't sacrifice herself for people who saw her as disposable. Someone who finally understood the difference between family and relatives. I walked back to my living room, admiring the fresh paint and new floors. Tomorrow, I would start working on the bedroom. There was still so much to do, so much to build. But tonight, I was content to sit in my own space, surrounded by my own choices, finally free from the weight of other people's expectations. The silence was golden.